The steady beep of medical equipment slowly penetrated the fog in Sergeant Jack Cooper's mind. His eyes fluttered open, squinting against the harsh light of what he gradually recognized as a hospital room. But this was unlike any hospital he'd ever seen. Sleek, almost organic-looking equipment surrounded him, a blend of human and alien technology. As his vision cleared, Jack saw a familiar face, Dr. Emily Sato, looking tired but relieved. "Welcome back to the land of the living, Sergeant," she said with a small smile. "You had us worried for a while there." Jack tried to speak, but his throat was dry and raw. Sato quickly offered him a cup of water with a straw. As he sipped, memories began flooding back: the desperate flight through space, the dwindling oxygen, the last-minute rescue. How long he managed to croak out. "You've been out for about a week," Sato replied. "The medical team had to put you in a coma to deal with some of the more severe effects of oxygen deprivation and alien pathogen exposure." Jack nodded slowly, taking stock of his body. He felt weak, but otherwise whole. Then a thought struck him, and his hand instinctively went to his chest pocket, only to find a hospital gown instead of his uniform. "My things," he said, a note of panic creeping into his voice. "Where are my things?" Sato's expression fell. "I'm sorry, Jack. There was an issue with contamination. All of your personal effects had to be incinerated." The words hit Jack like a physical blow. Stubborn Pete's picture, his last tangible connection to his life before all this was gone. He closed his eyes, fighting back a sudden wave of emotion. Sato placed a comforting hand on his arm. "I know it's not the same, but I had the medical AI generate this based on your description." She handed him a small tablet. Jack looked down to see a digitally rendered image of Stubborn Pete. It was a good likeness, but it lacked the worn edges, the creases that had made the original photo so precious. Still, he felt a lump in his throat as he looked at it. "Thank you," he managed. Before Sato could respond, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Leeds strode in, his presence immediately filling the room. "Sergeant Cooper," he said, nodding respectfully. "Good to see you awake. How are you feeling?" Jack straightened instinctively, even in his hospital bed. "Ready to return to duty, sir." Leeds chuckled. "At ease, Sergeant. You've more than earned some rest, but I'm afraid the galaxy isn't going to give us that luxury." Over the next hour, Leeds brought Jack up to speed on the current situation. The galactic landscape had shifted dramatically in the short time they'd been lost in space. Humanity had not only survived the alien threat, but had been welcomed into a vast community of spacefaring races. The destruction of the hostile alien homeworld was a tragedy, but it had also opened the door to unprecedented cooperation and advancement. The survivors of Zax Lath's people, Leeds explained, they're in a difficult position. Many of them opposed the extremist actions against Earth, but now they're refugees, their entire civilization in shambles. Jack nodded, processing the information. "What's our next move, sir?" Leeds fixed Jack with an intense gaze. "That's where you come in, Sergeant. We need someone to serve as a diplomatic envoy to the alien refugees. Someone who's seen their technology up close, who's fought against them, but also worked alongside them. Someone who understands the complexities of this situation." Jack blinked in surprise. "Sir, with all due respect, I'm a Marine, not a diplomat. Surely there are others more qualified." "Perhaps on paper," Leeds interrupted. "But you have something no career diplomat can match: shared experience. You've been through hell together. That counts for a lot." As Jack struggled to find words, Dr. Sato spoke up. "He's right, Jack. You have a unique perspective. And after everything that's happened, maybe what we need isn't traditional diplomacy, but someone who can speak honestly, soldier to soldier." Jack looked down at the digital image of Stubborn Pete, thinking of all that had led him to this moment. From a simple farm to the edges of known space, he'd come so far. And now, the fate of two civilizations might hinge on his ability to bridge the gap between them. Finally, he looked up, meeting Leeds' gaze. "When do I start?" Leeds smiled, a mix of relief and determination on his face. "We'll begin briefings tomorrow. It won't be easy, Cooper. You'll be dealing with a culture we barely understand, with individuals who have every reason to distrust us. but I believe you're the right man for the job." As Leeds and Sato left, promising to return with more details, Jack found himself alone with his thoughts. He looked again at the rendered image of stubborn Pete, remembering the old donkey's unwavering determination in the face of any challenge. "Well, old friend," he murmured, "looks like we've got one more impossible job ahead of us." Outside the window of his hospital room, Earth shimmered in the distance, a blue jewel suspended in space. And beyond it, Jack knew, lay a galaxy full of wonders and dangers, a galaxy that was now counting on him to help forge a path to peace. With a mix of trepidation and determination, Sergeant Jack Cooper began to prepare himself for the greatest challenge of his life, becoming a bridge between worlds. The shuttle shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Novaterra, the hastily terraformed moon that now served as home to the refugees of Zach's Lath's people. Sergeant Jack Cooper gripped his seat, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen showing their descent. "Nervous?" Sarge Rodriguez asked from the seat beside him, a hint of teasing in his voice. Jack managed a wry smile. "After everything we've been through, this should be a cakewalk." But as the alien landscape came into view, Jack felt a familiar tightness in his chest. The settlement below was a strange blend of advanced technology and makeshift structures, a visual reminder of a civilization struggling to rebuild. As they touched down on the landing pad, Jack took a deep breath, straightening his new diplomatic uniform. It felt strange, a far cry from his marine fatigues or the torn clothes he'd worn during their space odyssey. "Remember," he said to his team as they prepared to disembark, "we're here as guests and potential allies. Let's not repeat the mistakes of our first contact." The airlock hissed open, and Jack stepped out onto alien soil once more. But this time, instead of a battlefield, he was greeted by a delegation of aliens led by a familiar face, or rather, a familiar set of color-changing appendages. Sergeant Cooper Zach's Lath's translator rendered its clicks and whistles. "Welcome to our new home. Though I admit the circumstances of our reunion are unexpected." Jack nodded, trying to read the alien's body language. "Zach's Lath, I'm glad to see you survived. I hope we can move past our previous misunderstandings." As introductions were made, Jack couldn't help but notice the tension in the air. The alien refugees regarded the humans with a mix of curiosity, resentment, and what he thought might be hope. The tour of the settlement was eye-opening. Despite the challenges, the aliens had made remarkable progress. Their buildings seemed to grow organically from the terraformed soil, and Jack saw evidence of technology far beyond human understanding. However, cultural misunderstandings began almost immediately. When offered a ceremonial drink, Jack nearly caused an incident by attempting to sniff it first, apparently a grave insult in alien culture. Quick thinking by Dr. Sato, who had joined the diplomatic team, saved the moment. "In our culture," she explained hastily, "inhaling the aroma is a way to honor the drink's creator before consuming it." The aliens seemed skeptical but accepted the explanation. Jack made a mental note to be more careful with his instinctive reactions. As the day wore on, the challenges mounted. The universal translators struggled with nuanced concepts, leading to confusing and sometimes tense exchanges. During a meeting with the Alien Council, Jack found himself frustrated by the circular nature of the discussions. "With all due respect," he finally said, his patience wearing thin, "we seem to be talking in circles. Why don't we lay out our needs and concerns plainly?" The room fell silent. For a moment, Jack feared he'd made a terrible mistake. Then, to his surprise, one of the alien elders began to laugh, or at least, make a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. At last the elder said, "Someone who speaks plainly. Perhaps there is hope for understanding between our peoples after all." The ice broken, the discussions became more productive. Jack found himself drawing on his farming background, using analogies about tending crops and animal husbandry to explain human concepts. To his surprise, these seemed to resonate with the aliens. As night fell on Novaterra, Jack and his team retired to their assigned quarters. The day had been exhausting, but Jack felt a glimmer of hope. They were making progress, however slowly. That hope was short-lived. In the middle of the night, alarms blared throughout the settlement. Jack rushed out to find chaos in the streets. A critical failure in the atmospheric generators threatened to make the air unbreathable within hours. Without thinking, Jack began organizing both humans and aliens into action teams. His military training kicked in as he assessed the situation and delegated tasks. Rodriguez, take a team to the north generator. Chen, you're on the south. I'll coordinate from here. Move. As the crisis unfolded, Jack found himself working side by side with Zach's Lath, their past animosity forgotten in the face of a common threat. The aliens' knowledge of the technology combined with Jack's tactical thinking proved to be a powerful combination. Hours later, as the repaired generators hummed back to life, Jack found himself surrounded by grateful aliens. Zach's Lath approached, its skin cycling through colors Jack had never seen before. "You have saved many lives today, Sergeant Cooper," it said. Perhaps we judged your people too hastily." Jack, exhausted but relieved, managed to smile. "We're all just trying to survive," Zach's Lath. "Maybe that's something we can build on." As the adrenaline of the crisis faded, Jack looked out over the alien settlement, now bustling with a mix of humans and aliens working together in the aftermath. He thought of stubborn Pete, of the farm, of how far he'd come. "Well, old friend," he murmured to himself, "looks like stubbornness might just save the day again." The first real steps towards understanding had been taken, forged in the heat of crisis. But as Jack watched the alien sun rise over Novaterra, he knew the real challenges and opportunities were just beginning. Weeks had passed since the atmospheric generator crisis, and Sergeant Jack Cooper found himself consumed by an insatiable curiosity about his alien hosts. Each day brought new discoveries that pushed thoughts of Earth further from his mind. This morning, Jack stood before an imposing structure that seemed to defy gravity, its spiraling form reaching towards Novaterra's purple sky. Zach's Lath stood beside him, its skin shimmering with colors that Jack was learning to associate with pride. "This is our Hall of Ancestral Wisdom," Zach's Lath explained. "It houses our most important historical and cultural records." Jack nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's incredible. How does it stay up?" As Zach's Lath launched into an explanation involving principles of physics that made Jack's head spin, he found himself marveling not at the alien's words, but at how comfortable he'd become in these exchanges. The initial awkwardness had given way to a genuine rapport. Inside the hall, Jack was introduced to the Keepers of Knowledge, aliens whose bodies seemed to pulse with bioluminescent patterns. They guided him through vast chambers filled with what looked like living crystals, each one containing millennia of alien history and culture. "May I?" Jack asked, gesturing towards one of the crystals. The keeper nodded, its tendrils weaving a pattern that the translator rendered as "proceed with respect." As Jack's hand touched the crystal, his mind was flooded with images and sensations. He saw the rise and fall of alien civilizations, great migrations across the stars, and philosophical debates that had shaped the course of their history. Hours passed like minutes as Jack absorbed as much as he could, peppered with questions that seemed to delight his alien guides. He was particularly fascinated by the evolution of their technology, seeing parallels with human development, but also divergences that sparked his imagination. "Your people have achieved so much," Jack marveled as they left the hall. "I can't help but wonder where humanity might be in a few thousand years." Zach's Lath's skin rippled with a pattern Jack now recognized as thoughtful amusement. "Perhaps our peoples will journey among the stars together by then, Sergeant Cooper." The following days saw Jack diving deeper into alien culture. He participated in a ritual feast, where the food changed flavors depending on the emotions of the eater. He attended a council meeting where decisions were made not just through debate, but through a complex system of color signaling and pheromone exchange. Each experience pushed the boundaries of what Jack thought possible, filling him with a sense of excitement he hadn't felt since his first days in the Marines. Earth and his past life seemed increasingly distant, replaced by the thrill of discovery. One afternoon, Jack found himself in what passed for a schoolyard among the aliens. Young aliens, their forms not yet fully developed, engaged in what looked like a game but was actually a complex lesson in spatial mathematics. As he watched, Jack was struck by a realization. These alien children, born as refugees, were adapting and thriving in the face of incredible adversity. Their resilience reminded him of his own journey from farm boy to spacefaring diplomat. "They're remarkably adaptable," Jack commented to the alien teacher. The teacher's appendages waved in a pattern of agreement. "It is a trait our people have always valued. The ability to persist, to overcome, to stubbornly face any challenge." Jack chuckled, recognizing a kindred spirit. "You know, that stubborn persistence reminds me of my own people. Maybe we're not so different after all." As the alien sun set, casting the settlement in an ethereal glow, Jack found himself reflecting on how much had changed. The homesickness that had once gnawed at him had been replaced by an expansive sense of possibility. He was no longer just a farmer's son or a Marine, but an explorer on the frontier of human experience. That night, a pivotal moment arrived. Jack was invited to participate in the ceremony of shared perspective, a ritual normally reserved for the alien's own kind. As he stepped into the chamber, surrounded by softly pulsing bioluminescent flora, Jack felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation. The ritual involved a form of limited telepathic connection, allowing participants to share glimpses of their experiences and emotions. As Jack connected with Zaxlath and the other aliens, he felt a flood of alien perspectives washing over him. He saw the beauty of their lost homeworld, felt the pain of its destruction, and experienced the hope that fueled their efforts to rebuild. In turn, he shared his own journey, the simple joys of his farming days, the camaraderie of the Marines, the terror and wonder of their space odyssey. As the ceremony concluded, Jack found himself emotionally overwhelmed. He had glimpsed a way of seeing the universe that was fundamentally alien, yet beautifully familiar in its complexity. Zaxlath approached him, its skin glowing with a warmth Jack had never seen before. "You have honored us greatly, Sergeant Cooper. Few outsiders have ever been invited to share in this ritual." Jack, still processing the experience, smiled. "Thank you for trusting me with this. I think I'm beginning to understand your people in a way I never thought possible." As he left the chamber, Jack realized that his mission had become more than just a diplomatic assignment. He was no longer an outsider looking in, but a bridge between two cultures, each with so much to offer the other. The path ahead was still uncertain, fraught with challenges and potential misunderstandings. But as Jack looked up at the alien stars, he felt a sense of purpose and belonging that transcended his old notions of home. The universe had never seemed so vast, so full of possibility, and Sergeant Jack Cooper was eager to explore every bit of it. The conference room hummed with tension. On one side sat the human delegation, their formal attire a stark contrast to the fluid, almost living garments of the aliens seated opposite. Sergeant Jack Cooper, now officially titled Special Envoy Cooper, sat at the center, acutely aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The matter of resource allocation remains unresolved. Admiral Leeds' hologram flickered as he spoke from Earth. "We cannot commit to providing more than what's already been offered." Jack watched as the alien's skin rippled with colors he now recognized as frustration and disappointment. He knew he had to act. "Admiral, if I may," Jack interjected, earning surprised looks from both sides. "I believe I have a proposal that might satisfy both parties." Leeds nodded, giving Jack the floor. Drawing on his newfound understanding of alien culture and his own background, Jack began to outline a plan. "What if we approach this not as a matter of charity, but as an investment in shared future technology?" He activated a holographic display, showing a mix of human and alien designs. "By combining our agricultural techniques with the aliens' advanced terraforming knowledge, we could develop systems that benefit both our peoples." The room fell silent as both humans and aliens considered his words. Jack held his breath, hoping he hadn't overstepped. Finally, Zaxlath spoke, its translator conveying a tone of cautious optimism. "This is an intriguing proposal, Envoy Cooper. It honors our need for self-sufficiency while acknowledging the value of our knowledge." The negotiations took on a new energy after that. Jack found himself constantly bridging gaps in understanding, translating not just words but concepts between the two species. His unique perspective, part soldier, part diplomat, part farmer proved invaluable in finding common ground. Days turned into weeks as the talks progressed. There were setbacks, moments when cultural misunderstandings threatened to derail everything. During one particularly heated exchange over territorial rights, Jack had to call upon every ounce of his Marine training to keep his cool. "Look," he said, addressing both sides, "I know we're all frustrated. But let's remember why we're here. We've both lost too much to let pride or fear drive us apart now." His words seemed to resonate, reminding everyone of the larger stakes at play. Slowly but surely, progress was made. One evening, as Jack was reviewing the latest draft of the agreement, he received an unexpected visitor. It was the alien elder who had first appreciated his direct approach all those weeks ago. "You have surprised us," Envoy Cooper the elder said, its body glowing with warm hues. "When you first arrived, many thought you were just another human soldier, incapable of understanding our ways, but you have shown a depth of perception that is remarkable." Jack felt a surge of pride, but also humility. "I'm just trying to do what's right for both our peoples. There's still so much I don't understand." The elder's appendages waved in what Jack now knew was a gesture of agreement. It is that very acknowledgement of what you do not know that makes you valuable. Our own leaders could learn from such humility. As the elder left, Jack found himself reflecting on how far he'd come. The farm boy who once knew only the rhythms of Earth's seasons was now helping shape interstellar policy. It was a dizzying thought. The next day brought a major breakthrough in the negotiations. Jack's proposal for a joint scientific initiative, combining human and alien expertise to tackle galactic-scale challenges, was met with enthusiasm from both sides. As the details were being hammered out, Admiral Leeds pulled Jack aside for a private conversation. "I have to hand it to you," Cooper Leeds said, a note of genuine admiration in his voice. "When I first suggested this assignment, I had my doubts. But you've exceeded all expectations." Jack nodded, feeling a mix of pride and uncertainty. "Thank you, sir. But I can't help feeling like I'm in over my head sometimes. I'm making decisions that could affect the future of both our species." Leeds placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "That's precisely why you're the right man for this job, Cooper. You understand the weight of these decisions. You're not just seeing policy points, you're seeing people, human and alien alike." As Leeds' hologram flickered away, Jack was left with a renewed sense of purpose. He turned back to the conference room, where humans and aliens were engaged in animated discussion, building on his proposals. In that moment, Jack realized that he had found his true calling. He was no longer just a Marine, or a farmer, or even a diplomat. He was a bridge between worlds, helping to forge a future that neither humans nor aliens could have imagined on their own. As the day's session wrapped up, Zaxlath approached Jack. "The Council has been impressed by your contributions, Envoy Cooper. We would like to invite you to lead the human side of the negotiations going forward." Jack felt a momentary flash of panic at the enormity of the responsibility. But as he looked around the room, seeing the hope and determination on both human and alien faces, he knew his answer. "I would be honored," he said, his voice steady with resolve. As night fell on Novaterra, Jack stood at the window of his quarters, looking out at the alien landscape that had become so familiar. The stars above held the promise of countless new adventures, new understandings to be reached. Sergeant Jack Cooper, farm boy turned Marine turned interstellar diplomat, was ready to face whatever challenges the universe had in store. For he had discovered that the greatest frontier wasn't out there in the stars, but in the space between different minds, different cultures, coming together to build something new. The real work was just beginning, and Jack couldn't wait to see what tomorrow would bring. The grand hall of the alien settlement pulsed with an energy that Jack Cooper had come to associate with momentous occasions. Humans and aliens alike were gathered, their attention focused on the raised platform where Jack stood alongside Zaxlath and Admiral Leeds' hologram. Today, Jack began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall, "We take a historic step. The cooperative accord between humanity and the people of Zaxlath marks not the end of our journey, but a new beginning." As Jack spoke, outlining the key points of the agreement they'd worked so hard to create, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. The accord covered everything from resource sharing to cultural exchange programs, from joint scientific ventures to mutual defense pacts. When he finished, Zack's lath stepped forward, its skin shimmering with colors that Jack now recognized as deep emotion. "Envoy Cooper speaks truth," it said. "This accord is more than a document. It is a promise that together we can face any challenge the universe may present." The hall erupted in a cacophony of human cheers and alien vocalizations that the translators struggled to keep up with. As Jack looked out over the crowd, seeing humans and aliens mingling freely, he felt a profound sense of how far they'd all come. After the ceremony, as the celebrations were in full swing, Jack found himself approached by the alien elder, who had become something of a mentor to him. "You have done well," Envoy Cooper the elder said, its appendages forming patterns that Jack had learned to read as approval and affection. "But I sense your journey is far from over." Before Jack could respond, Zack's lath joined them, its demeanor suddenly serious. "Elder, is it time?" The elder's skin pulsed with confirmation. Yes, he has earned the right to know. Jack looked between them, curiosity piqued. "Know what?" Zack's lath gestured for Jack to follow. They made their way to a secure chamber deep within the settlement, one Jack had never seen before. As the door sealed behind them, holographic displays sprang to life, showing star maps and what looked like battle formations. "What you are about to see," Zack's lath began, "is known only to our highest council and a select few of your military leaders." The displays shifted, showing strange, angular ships that seemed to be made of constantly shifting metal. "For centuries, we have been engaged in a silent war on the fringes of our territory. These entities, we do not fully understand them. They appear to be some form of ancient, robotic civilization." Jack's mind raced as he took in the information. "Why haven't I heard about this before? Why keep it secret?" The elder spoke up. "We feared that knowledge of this threat might jeopardize our negotiations. Some among us worried that humans might see us as a liability rather than an ally. But now," Zack's lath continued, "with our accord in place, we believe it is time to face this threat together. These robots, they are unlike anything we have encountered. They do not communicate, do not negotiate, they simply expand." Jack studied the tactical displays, his military training kicking in. "Have you tried to understand their motives, their origins?" Zack's lath's skin rippled with what Jack now recognized as frustration. "We have tried, but they remain a mystery. What little we have gleaned suggests they may be remnants of a civilization far older than our own, perhaps even the fabled precursors spoken of in our oldest legends." The elder moved to stand beside Jack. "We have held them at bay, but only just. With humanity's different perspective, different technologies. Perhaps together we can find a solution." Jack's mind was a whirl with the implications. Just when he thought he was beginning to understand the galaxy, it had thrown him another curveball. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt a surge of excitement. "I assume you're telling me this for a reason," Jack said, looking between Zack's lath and the elder. "What do you need from me?" Zack's lath's skin pulsed with colors Jack associated with resolve and hope. "We would like you to see the situation firsthand, to visit our frontline defenses and assess the threat with your own eyes. Your unique perspective, part soldier, part diplomat, could be invaluable." Jack nodded slowly, understanding the weight of what was being asked. This wasn't just another diplomatic mission. It was a step into an unknown that could shape the future of both their species. "When do we leave?" he asked, his voice steady with determination. The elder's appendages formed a pattern of approval. "Your readiness honors us, Envoy Cooper. We will depart in 3 cycles. There is much to prepare." As Jack left the chamber, his head spinning with all he had learned, he found himself looking up at the alien sky. The stars seemed different now, holding both promise and peril. He thought about how far he'd come from that farm on Earth, how much he'd grown and changed. The challenge ahead was daunting, perhaps the greatest he'd ever faced. But as Jack made his way back to his quarters to prepare, he felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything he'd known before. This was why he'd joined the Marines, why he'd accepted this diplomatic post. To push the boundaries, to face the unknown, to make a difference on a scale he'd never imagined possible. Sergeant Jack Cooper, Marine, diplomat, and now explorer of the greatest frontier yet, was ready for whatever the galaxy had in store. The next chapter of his incredible journey was about to begin, and he couldn't wait to see where it would lead. As he began to pack, Jack allowed himself a small smile. Somehow, he had a feeling that his adventures were only just beginning. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.